What's the most dangerous airport in the world? It's not in the mountains. It's not surrounded by storms. It's a moving runway in the middle of the ocean. Today, we're counting down 7 of the wildest carrier aviation disasters ever caught on camera. Stay with us because one of them almost killed a future U.S. senator in it. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Number 7, USS Nimitz, CVN 68, 26th of May, 1981. It's just before midnight, 60 miles off the Florida coast. The Nimitz is running night landings, routine stuff, until it isn't. An EA-6B Prowler comes in for the trap. Something's off. The pilot drifts right of the center line, just a few feet. On a carrier deck at night, a few feet is everything. The Prowler missed the wires completely. What happened next took maybe 4 seconds. The jet slammed into a parked SH-3 helicopter's tail, then 3 A-7E Corsairs, then a tow tractor, then 3 F-14 Tomcats. It finally stopped at the port edge, on fire. Every one of those F-14s was loaded. Sparrows, Sidewinders, a Phoenix missile each. JP-5 fuel started pouring. The deck went up. 14 sailors died. 45 were injured. 4 aircraft destroyed, 16 damaged. Damage estimates north of $100 million. The Navy's JAG investigation blamed pilot error, failure to hold the center line. But the autopsies revealed something else entirely. There were traces of drugs on the deck crew. Shocking? Very much, yes. And 8 years before that night, something even worse had already happened on another carrier. Number 6, USS Enterprise, CVN 65, January 14, 1969. It's morning, 70 miles off Hawaii. The Enterprise is running a readiness inspection. Everything looks routine. But on deck, a small starter unit called a huffer is sitting in a deadly position. Its exhaust is blowing straight onto a Zuni rocket warhead bolted under the wing of an F-4 Phantom. One young airman notices. He tries to warn his superiors, but his voice is swallowed by the roar of the jets. Nobody moves the huffer. Then the math runs out. In roughly 1 minute and 18 seconds, the 15-pound Composition B warhead detonates. The blast tears open the Phantom's fuel tanks, and burning JP-5 floods across the deck. Around 18 explosions ripped holes straight through the flight deck, dumping fire into the levels below. 28 dead, 314 injured, and 15 aircraft destroyed out of the 32 aboard. The damage topped $126 million. But even this wasn't the worst carrier disaster of the era. Not even close. Number 5, USS Abraham Lincoln, October 25, 1994. Off the coast of San Diego, Lieutenant Kara Hultgreen was lining up her F-14 Tomcat for a routine daytime landing on the USS Abraham Lincoln. She was 29 years old. She was the first female combat-qualified fighter pilot in U.S. Navy history. Her approach started drifting. She was overshooting the center line of the landing deck. To correct, she pressed the left rudder pedal. It was the wrong move at the wrong moment. The rudder shift disrupted the airflow into her left engine intake. Inside that engine, a notoriously fragile TF-30, the compressor stalled instantly. Half her thrust was gone, just feet above the water on final approach. The Tomcat rolled left. The nose pitched up. Her radar officer in the back seat, Lieutenant Matthew Clemish, ejected and survived. Hultgreen ejected a fraction of a second later. By then, the jet was rolling almost upside down. She was fired sideways into the ocean at low altitude. She did not survive. Her body was recovered 19 days later, still strapped to her seat from 3,700 feet underwater. But not every carrier nightmare ended in tragedy. Some pilots walked away from the impossible. Number 4, USS Carl Vinson, CVN 70, January 24th, 2022. Now fast forward to the modern age. The deadly fires were supposed to be history. The Navy had the best jet ever built, and a camera rolling on the deck. It was January 24th, 2022. The USS Carl Vinson was sailing in the South China Sea. An F-35C, the most advanced fighter the Navy had ever flown, lined up to land. The pilot tried a faster, flashier approach than he had ever done before, and he didn't know one thing was switched off: A built-in system that controls the jet's power during landing was turned off. The pilot didn't realize it. The jet came in underpowered. Too low, too slow. By the time he understood, it was already too late to fix. The nose slammed into the back of the deck. The landing gear collapsed in an instant. You can hear the crew screaming for him to pull up. The $115.3 million stealth fighter spun across the deck in flames, then slid off the edge and dropped into the sea. The pilot ejected halfway through. 7 people were hurt, including the pilot. Debris damaged a nearby EA-18G Growler, costing over $2.5 million, plus $120,000 in deck damage. The jet later sank to 12,000 feet before being recovered. But the next crash wasn't American, and this one shows the rest of the world struggles just as badly. Nobody proves that better than Russians. Number 3, Admiral Kuznetsov, December 5th, 2016. Admiral Kuznetsov was off the coast of Syria. A Su-33 fighter had just finished a combat mission. Now it needed to come home. When you are landing on a carrier, you need the tailhook under the jet to catch a steel cable stretched across the deck. The Kuznetsov has 4 of these cables. The Su-33 came down. The hook grabbed a cable, but in the blink of an eye, the cable snapped. The wire slowed the jet just enough to kill its speed, but not enough to stop it. And now it didn't have enough power left to take off again and try once more. The fighter ran out of deck. It rolled straight off the edge and tumbled into the Mediterranean. Fortunately, the pilot ejected and was pulled from the water alive. So far, every disaster has started in the sky. The next one didn't. It started with a single sailor and one tiny piece of metal in his hand. Number 2, USS Oriskany, October 26, 1966. USS Oriskany was off the coast of Vietnam. The crew was stowing leftover gear from night operations. 2 sailors were handling a magnesium flare. The safety wasn't reset. As one of them moved it, the lanyard caught and the flare ignited. These flares burn at 3,000 degrees. Once lit, you cannot put them out. The sailor panicked. He had seconds to throw it overboard. Instead, he threw it back into the locker behind him. The locker held over 250 of the same flares. He slammed the door shut. 5 minutes later, the locker exploded. Flames tore through the hangar bay below the flight deck. The Oriskany was refueling at that exact moment, taking on jet fuel and aviation gas from a tanker tied alongside. Men ran into the inferno. They wheeled burning planes away from bombs. They threw 2,000-pound bombs straight into the sea to stop more explosions. The final toll was brutal. 44 killed and 156 injured. Many of the dead were veteran combat pilots who had survived enemy fire over Vietnam just hours earlier. Now we go back in time to the disaster that nearly sank a nuclear ship, and a future senator was right in the middle of it. Number 1, USS Forrestal, CVA-59, July 29, 1967. This is the Gulf of Tonkin, 10:50 a.m. The Forrestal is preparing its second strike on North Vietnam. 27 aircraft on deck, fueled, armed, ready. Then a single electrical glitch changed everything. A stray signal ignited a Zuni rocket motor on an F-4B Phantom. The rocket shot across the deck. It struck the external fuel tank of an A-4E Skyhawk, which belonged to a young lieutenant commander named John McCain. Hundreds of gallons of JP-5 hit the deck and lit up. A 32-knot wind fanned it instantly. 54 seconds later, the damage control chief, Gerald Ferrier, ran toward a 1,000-pound bomb that was glowing white-hot, armed with nothing but a hand extinguisher. 94 seconds in, the bomb cooked off. It killed him and his entire firefighting team. Then another bomb, and another. The ship nearly capsized. Many of those bombs were World War II surplus. Some were created in 1935, far more sensitive to fire than modern ordnance. 134 dead, 161 injured, 21 aircraft destroyed. The fire burned for over 24 hours. Future United States Senator John McCain was in it and luckily got saved. And that's the brutal truth about carrier aviation. They were the same enemy every single time. Fuel, ordnance, and human error packed into a few hundred feet of steel.